Hey folks, welcome back. Haven't been around doing any videos and putting anything up on the channel obviously for quite a while because of the storms and the fact that I was gone for a week up in Tennessee, so I am home obviously from that. So we're going to be putting a video up this week. It's going to be on some 96 VFR750 carbs that were sent in by a viewer that I'm helping them out with. And so this will be part one of two parts of doing these carbs and putting them back together. Yeah, there's a little machining involved, some of which I filmed but won't be in these videos. Yikes. I'm going to be putting up a midweek machining video following the video 2 on these carbs, which explains making kind of a really special, a really special fuel distribution tee for these carbs, and I'll explain the reasons why in that video. I'm not sure about this one here because it's got a sharp bend that goes to number 1 and 3. So as far as this goes, don't worry about it, you didn't see it yet. So enjoy this video. It's part 1 again, a part of 2 parts for this VFR 750 job as far as the carbs go, and hope you enjoy it, and we'll see you at the other end. This is from a VFR 750F 96, I believe. According to the viewer that sent them in, they are leaking at a joint, a fuel tee rather. These actually only have 2 fuel tees, no fuel joints, I don't believe. You only have 2 of them, one there and one there, because you're only filling or supplying the 2 sides. That's a joint there, a tee rather, and a tee there. I'll show you up close later. And it has a T up in here that connects the 2 of them. So this is really typical of the VFRs and the VFs. And look at this, we have some of our friends here, the air cut valves on the exterior of these carbs like we did on the Valkyries. So we're going to be taking a look at those as well, but I did not order any parts for those. I didn't think of that. I bet you they're the exact same air cut valves though the Valkyrie takes. Now I might have some O-rings for that, but what we're going to end up having to do is completely split this rack. If I'm going to split this rack to change out fuel T O-rings and to harden that part of the system, we're certainly going to rebuild them if necessary. We'll take the the float bowls off rather and see if the viewer has done that already. Maybe the parts are good already. I don't know. I've already ordered the entire kits for it as far as the, well, I shouldn't call them a kit. They're a gasket set. Honda says gasket set 1 or gasket set A. And it just so happens that when you take a look at the picture now, the picture doesn't always show up on these parts fishes, but when you take a look at the picture, it has all these O-rings, including some very large ones, which, you know, normally I like large things, but
that's bullshit.
I wasn't concerned. I wasn't not concerned. I wasn't sure about where those go, and then I saw these big famungas, which is part obviously of the emissions system of the time, or emission control. I don't know. It has something to do with this tube that goes for the breather side of it, and you know, being it's got air cut valves, I'm not surprised. And so that's what those are for. So the big O-ring, the big honkin' famunga O-rings in that kit obviously go to these tees here. So yeah, interesting. So what I'm going to do first is shut you off because I need to use the phone to, I'm going to take a bunch of photos of this as it's in position. The viewer has already labeled these. FR, front right. That one's not, rear right. And then on this side, this one is labeled opposite, front left and rear left. So if we were to set these in position based on that, front right, we go like this. So it should be 1, 3, 2, 4 then, if that's correct the way he's got them set up. So it should be 1, 3, 2, 4, front left, front right, and so forth. And that makes sense because this would be about where you'd want your fuel line would come in. It comes in the same place basically on my Magna as well, or similar to it, except Magna didn't have all this crap. But so we're going to go over some stuff in pretty good detail on these, because I've never worked on them before. This exact set of types of, I have worked on them from a Magna, a newer Magna, like the same era Magna, like 96 to 03 or something like that Magnas. I have taken those apart, and these intake funnels here are the exact same ones I think that are on those racks that I had to replace because those tangs were broke off by somebody. I had to replace 2 of them. I've got the old ones around here somewhere. I keep them around in case I need cylindrical with a wide brim on it to make like a funnel or something out of aluminum, or sex toy out of or something. You know, you never know what you can use them for. So as far as the photographs go, again, you want to have some sort of a reference. So I've even marked the fuel tubes in here, 1 and 3 and 2 and 4. I may even machine them new fuel tubes. I don't even know yet. But the thing is, you know, you mark them that way. That way you have something to go off of when you go to put them back together. And just as you're taking it apart, you know, for your photography, yeah, here for your photography purposes. And the other thing is, don't zoom up too much. Don't zoom up in one little section like down in here. Then you're going to look at your pictures and go, I don't even know what that is, because there's no reference, a wider angle reference. You want to have at least something nearby that's either numbered or identifiable. It's not going to change, you know, like a piece of tape or something that's going to fall off. You don't want that. But some other feature of the carburetors. We're going to go ahead and take the float bolts off first, because we need to pressure test this and see exactly what's wrong and verify the viewer's complaint in regards to, he says it's leaking in a fuel T, or a fuel T, yeah, that's it. So we'll come back here in a sec. These screws are not in the greatest shape. So luckily they're hex head as well as, I almost said Phillips, JIS. And the linkage here does not feel very, I should say the action of them, feels very sticky. Not very good. It's better now. I've moved it a few times, but these things are definitely a little bit on the gooey, ooey side. I don't think this is going to do it. No, we're not going to be able to get those with, the screws are too screwed up. So, screwed up. Well, I can use a nut driver on the ones I can access, and the inside one, well, I just have to break it loose with a little wrench or something. But let me go get an 8 mil. Yep. I don't even know if those are the correct screws. I've never seen screws like this on bottom of carbs, so I don't believe that. I don't know if these are the right ones or not. I don't know. Maybe they are. I unfortunately am very, very low on carb screws. You used to be able to get packs of them from Z1 Enterprises. 5, even the M6 ones and the M4 ones, and they do not sell them anymore. I do not know what happened, but, and they were dirt freaking cheap, and they were really nice screws. And I don't know. I don't know what the hell happened. They just don't sell them anymore. I've been looking and looking and looking, and I can't find them anywhere. So there you go. Did I mention? I don't know what happened. Let me get all these off camera, or we'll do some sort of a time warp, and then I think I'm going to go up and pull up a chair here. Park my butt down. Well, these these floats have been around the block a few times. Don't want to take them out yet. Like I said, I'm going to pressure test the rack and see where it's leaking. The way they design these things is pretty crappy, because it's hard to get at the one that's down in here without this one coming off. But in this case, if you have, let me get 1 and 3 back, kind of get at this one on number 3 better than you can get at this one on number 1, because of this feature on the drain part of the float bowl. Whenever you have a situation like this, get the easier one off first is what I'm trying to say. Get this one out of the way, and then you can reach pretty much straight in and do that. And it's opposite on the 2 and 4 side. So it's just something, I started to work on this one at a steep angle, and I went, wait a minute, that ain't right. Because there's an easier way to get this. So that's the easier way. It's not great, but it's easier. Anyway, let me go get a pressure tester. We'll hook up to this T right here, and then we'll pressurize it and see what's going on. All right, it's all wet because I filmed a clip of doing this and I didn't like how it came out, because this thing is like got no pressure whatsoever. And I'm pumping it going, what in the hell?
What the hell?
And I'm gonna show you what the deal is by just blowing into it here. But you can see, as far as the gauge goes, it's got nothing, no pressure. This is like really bad. Now this is the whole problem. Now keep an eye right there where the T goes into 3, between 1 and 3. I'll zoom you up, in fact. All right, so there's some soapy water. Can you see it? That is completely blown out. I mean, that is like ridiculously blown out. So there's where at least one of the leaks are, but it does not matter if there are any others. Why, you ask? Well, I'll tell you. The reason why is if you got one, you got to split the rack anyway, so who cares? We're going to replace them all. So that's really a good rule of thumb. If you have a rack of carbs with a leaking joint or a leaking T in a multi-cylinder situation, doesn't matter if it's an inline. In a way it does. It depends what kind of inline carbs. There may be some caveats for inline carbs where you can slide the end carbs off, but not always, and very rarely actually, because sometimes they penetrate through the actual rack they stick in, like the VM carbs. But I digress. In this particular case where you have your V4 format carbs, the whole rack's got to come apart anyways. Yeah, this is not going to be cheap, because I checked V4 Dream's website and he doesn't have a whole lot for 85 or 86 to, well, he's got some VF as well, VF stuff, but doesn't have a lot for the like 96 to 2003, or I don't know what it was. I looked at his website. He's got the Viton Fuel T O-rings, and that's pretty much it.
2,000 years later.
All right, folks, we're back. This is a number of days, if not 10 days later from the last clip. So I've been out of town, went up Tennessee, did some riding, had to clear my head from all these hurricanes and stuff. I got most of the yard work as far as the major stuff to make the place rather look halfway presentable. I can't even think right now. About a day before I left, actually it was a day before I left. I left a week ago Saturday. Today is Monday the 4th. So I left a week ago this past Saturday. So I guess that would be about 8 or 9 days. I don't know. I'm so confused right now. I know I slept about 10 hours last night. But I rode up, rode back. We stayed at the Cherry Mountain Trails campground. I'll put a link in the description to their place because I highly recommend it. So this is where I left them off, and this is where you left off from the last video. I've just marked a few more things. I've got plenty of pictures because, you know, these are pretty complicated carbs because they're all crammed together. Not terrible, though. One thing I don't think I mentioned in the last video is, or video clips. Unlike the carbs in my Magna, the 82, there is no bolts that go through, or say studs with nuts on them. The air box is actually the rack, quote unquote, for those. This one's got 3 of these things. And of course this bracket in the center, which keeps them from folding up, because you got one right here, you got one here, and you got one here. So there's 3 of them that go through. If this wasn't here, they'd like fold up, you know, when they weren't attached to the air box. So what we're going to do right now is just take the guts out of the carburetors real quick. I want to look at the floats, which do not look very good. We'll bag them up in the appropriate bags, which are right out of shot here, and set them aside. And then I'm going to put the float bolts back on temporarily with 2 screws, and then, or maybe even just 1, just to protect the standoffs here for the floats. Take the air box off because the bolts that go through, they'll stay together, and it'll be easier to get at the other side of them. I think that'll be the way to go, and we can get rid of these velocity stacks, which I have to be really careful of in this position because we're kind of resting on them here. So you just got to remember not to crunch down on them, because I imagine you could probably break these pretty easily. So we are going to be extra careful with that. I don't hear any fluid in them, but as you can see, these floats are just not in great shape. I'll have to reach out to him, see if he wants me to replace them. I'm sure aftermarket's the only thing available, but you know, if they're not compromised, but then again, if there was any fuel in them, it's probably long gone because they've been sitting so long. Probably don't need to be replaced then. That's got a pretty good line around it, and they're pretty distorted. me see if I can zoom up on number 1 here. This is a pretty good example of one that you don't want to reuse. And you see how it's not even around the circumference of it. They almost look like the ones that go in the Valkyrie, so they may work in this one because I got plenty of those. Probably the same damn ones, and they'll probably work in this situation. Oh, that's tight. This is a 125, number 125 main jet. I'm only going to do one of these carbs here on camera. I'll do the other 3 off. Emulsion looks good. It's kind of sort of not an emulsion tube, and it is. It's really more of a just part of the main jet assembly because of the way these carbs are set up. This doesn't go directly up into the position where the needle from the slide goes down inside, which you typically see for an emulsion tube. So this one's really got sort of a quote-unquote emulsion tube as part of the carburetor assembly, but we're just going to call it that. Slow jet, let's see what the number of that is. They should be all the same. And this is a 40, which is about right. I would expect to see that. 125 and 40 sounds completely reasonable for a stock setup. All right, and then I'll get my circle tool, or I should say, it's like a D tool because of the shape. And you've seen this before, but it's like on the Valkyrie. You got that, which is like a D thing. And I'll go get my tool, and we'll, I got my tool, but not the right one, and we'll take these out as well. So here's that D tool, you see the shape? Now this has got a little 1/4 inch hex on it that would typically go in a tool like this with the little detent ball, but it actually goes in the Motion Pro kit. And I've been asked where to get just these, and I honestly don't know the answer to that. But I know if you buy the Motion Pro kit, you know, the right angle kit, they come in it. So that's just where I get it from. I'm not going to worry about where these are set right now, to be honest with you. I'm going to set them to factory spec, so I'm not going to worry about it right now. I can just look that up in the service manual. I might check the last one and just see what that one's at, and then just get a reference. They look pretty good. Now I got to dig down in there with a little piece of wire and get the little washer and the O-ring out of there, but I'll do that off camera. So that's pretty much it on the innards. So I'll do the other 3 off camera. We'll get these organized. I'm going to put those float bolts back on, at least with 1 screw, as I said before. And then we'll flip them over and separate them from the airbox itself. I should say the body, the main body. And I'll show you this little feature. Yeah, it's similar on the Magna carbs. When I do those carbs, I'll show that to you. You can see that this float for number 2, the pin, there's not enough room between the bracket and the float to get this out, so they put a little hole in so you can stick it through and just pull it out the other side. On the Magna, there's a linkage like this that goes between, I forgot which 2 carbs, and the linkage is in the way, so you have to move the linkage just by opening the throttle a little bit, and the hole will line up just like you see this one here. Don't fret if you have a set of carbs that are like that with a linkage, because the manufacturers provide a little hole for that. So you just got to pull it out a little more carefully. That's all I'm bringing up at this point. All the carbs are 125 and 40s, as I was saying before, as far as the mains and the slows. This is how you get these out. You just take a little piece of bent wire and you just hook them, pull them out, and then put them in a baggie or whatever container you got. I'm not going to reuse the actual O-ring, but I may reuse that little washer. All right, let's neaten up this place a little bit. No worse for the wear. I really don't like that. You know, honestly, I really should have had a couple of pieces of wood elevating these off, but I think these are probably a little bit dinged up from prior work on it because I didn't do any pressure at all. But, you know, it really a good practice. When I go to put them back together, I think we'll do that. We'll elevate these off because it's just good practice to do that. How this is going to work is there's going to be little tangs underneath these velocity stacks here. And when this thing gets clamped down to the carbs, those tanks get smushed between the carb body, or I should say the body of this and the carb body. And you can see you got these little bendy dealios here that restrain your screws. You don't want to have those coming loose, bouncing into a carburetor, do you? when the thing is running. So we're going to bend those out of the way and break these loose. And I'm pretty sure, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure that this is just going to come right off, because I don't think there's any pins that would hold this up. In other words, if there was pins, you know, like a different type of a setup that would require the carbs to come off straight, you know, from the body here, then it would give us a problem. But I don't see how that can happen because the material's not even that thick. I want to be real easy on these things because I don't want them to break off. So I'm just going to bend them back as far as I need, because I don't know how many times they've been bent already. Okay, those are really tight, which I expected. I don't know if this has ever been taken off before. I'm assuming it has. So I'm going to get the impact with a JIS bit. Even though my impact is kind of sick. It doesn't work very well. And we will take it from there. But I get real nervous around these bendy tabs if they've been manipulated many times before. This thing is on its last legs, and I think what I need to do is, the motor is just weak. I don't think it's in the impact mechanism. It's not putting enough torque to use the little anvil in there, I guess it is, to put it up, you know, do its thing. So I have another drill that is an 18-volt drill. This is an 18-volt impact. And it's the same guts, I'm sure. So I just haven't had time with all the crap going on around here. I'm gonna cannibalize that one and rebuild this one, I think. But hopefully it's gonna work for us right now. Yep. And that's a JIS bit. You do this with any other type of bit, it's gonna probably cam out on you. She's been a good impact, but she is on her last legs. And of course you got these little guys that are just like, I don't know if they're exactly the same, but they're very similar to the ones on the Valkyrie. I almost said the Magna. This is a Magna. On the Valkyrie, we can just get that off and do our thing. Now we can mark that too if we want, which I probably will do because my brain is half dead. So it was like this. This is going to be the 1 in 3 side. He's got them etched in here, but he's got them etched, I should say not etched, but scribed. RR for right rear and RF for right front would be on the right side rear, which is 3, which is here, and this is number 1, so this is correct. I am premature as usual. The reason why I'm coming back to this right now is because I failed to mention that these stacks are different lengths. So the ones on the rear, that would be the 2 and 4. So the ones on the front, rather, being 2 and 4, are longer than the ones on the rear. That's the way they're in here, at least. And it looks like it's right. So I'll verify that on the parts fish just to make sure, but otherwise they would be sticking up cattywampus. So I'm going to go ahead and mark these. Well, actually, I don't need to mark them. We'll put them in the appropriate bags, but I'll mark them anyway. That way you know where they go, because I'm probably not going to put these in bags after all because I don't need to. We just put them up on the shelf above your head and get them out of the way. That's where we'll put some of the other common items that don't necessarily need to be bagged, like the caps and so forth for the slides and the slides themselves. And in case you're wondering, this is correct, the way these go in. The gaskets go in first and they got these little tangs. And then you put whatever stack or whatever thing that you have on there. Like on the Valkyrie, it's got that little, it's like a stack with little tangs on it like this, but it's straight, just about that big maybe. Because if you did it otherwise, and you put the stacks down first, this gasket would be riding up too high and it would actually kind of twist the gasket and screw up the seal here. So this was on correctly. Just bring that up to your attention at this point. All right, so now we are in a really good position to do what we would do like on Valkyrie racks and any other type of multi-cylinders like this, where there are common things between the two sides or common things between the front and the back, as the case may be. So we can get these big hoses out of the way, and we can get the small hoses out of the way, and we can just kind of tear it down, you know, kind of peel the onion And then we can start taking off things like the enricher brackets on the sides, because they connect to two sides, or they would restrain the two sides that come apart. You know, we need to get those off first. So that's what I'm going to do here, and this is where you'd want to take some good pictures of this mess back here where all these hoses go, which I'm going to mark again. I'm going to mark them as well to make sure that I know where they go. These hoses are in terrible shape, so I'm not sure about this one here because it's got a sharp bend that goes to number 1 and 3. It goes right back down underneath here. It's hard for you to see, and then it goes underneath and goes to 1 and 3 here. And then this one is much more normal looking, just a little bit of a bend, and goes down for 2 and 4. I would really like to replace these, but I'm sure they're molded hoses, and who knows where we can get them from. So let me go ahead and do that, and we will come back at that point, because you don't need to see all that. We'll just peel it. Like I said, peel the onion. I'm going to mark stuff as I go. Wow, those are tight. Oh, wow. Man, those are tight. Wow, 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 wow. Time to pull another bag out. 2 more, actually. This is going to be between 2 and 4. Tell you what, this fella that put these together, the owner, I'm assuming, he must be wicked strong. Those are really tight. I don't think I've ever had to impact one of these little M5s or whatever the hell they are. By the way, this one's bent over here. You see that? So that's not good. So we're going to have to fix that. I'm not sure why it's like that, but you can see with this one in that position, this one's partially open. So it must have just got whacked or something. Maybe even in shipping, I don't know. So just like the Valks, you got this little spring that helps to recoil it or return it. And you got these little guys that are like these little nylon or plastic washers that it slides on. And then of course the screws have them on the outside. So you just got to bag them up. And again, I'm going to put them in this bag that's between 2 and 4. Things apart and pull these springs out, and we'll get the adjuster, or I should say synchronizer springs out as well. They'll go in the appropriate bag. But let me get the rest of this apart, and we'll go ahead and get this ready for split. Now we're just going to take the connecting linkage off 2 and 4 right now, because like on the Valks, again, it's hard to get at one side. In this case, it's the 1 and 3. But we can get this one off real easy, so we'll just leave it on over there and deal with that later. And then we'll take this guy and we'll label it, which I think it's already labeled 2 and 4. Set it aside. Break these 10s loose. Boy, I tell you what, these are tight. He's a strong man. Strong. This enricher connection does not go to either carb on either side or sets of carbs. It stays and connects to the center bracket here. So I would say just leave it alone, because it should just clear when we start splitting things apart and just stay with that bracket. I've done these before, sort of, on a Magna of this era, but honestly I cannot remember how that went as far as that enricher goes. Probably the same damn carbs. But anyway, let me get these out. This is pretty boring. We'll just take the studs and nuts off of each stud, and then the studs out, that is. And then we should be able to pull these apart, tap them apart, what have you, and start splitting them individually. Now, I don't know if there's any tricks like on the Valkyrie where we deal with the four main carbs and then 5 and 6. I think it's 5 and 6. I can't remember now. But in this case, we're just going to have to kind of do it all at the same time, which is still a little easier than the Magnas, because for the reasons I mentioned before, these things do have the studs going through to hold them as a unit, as opposed to having to be clamped to the air box itself, and that's what holds everything together. Which is a real pain in the butt on the Magna carbs, because they're all bolted right there to the main box. It's much better the way these VFRs are set up with the long studs and the nuts. Okie doke. Those are out. They came out without any drama. Now we should be able to start splitting these, just like you normally would. And that comes there. This guy goes between, this actually goes between 3 and 2. Because it straddles between 2 different carbs. I'm just going to label everything, because I may not be able to get back to these for a little while, so why not, you know? Doesn't hurt. I've already got this one labeled, goes between 1 and 3. And I already have one of the big springs that go between the carbs already removed. Have not done the adjuster springs. I'm going to kind of deal with them as we go here. But we can also do it like we do on the Valks and just back these things off significantly. We're going to bench sync them anyway, and then he can do his own synchronization. And I think we'll just slide those out with it as we go. Just be careful of that so they don't go twing. Now this should come with. There goes one of the springs. Fine, that's fine. There we go. Now it's moving. Now it's moving. Now we can get that bracket out of the way. And we can slide this one out of the way. And pull this one up. Okay. That went this way, so we're going to go ahead and label that. Yeah, I think it's easier to pull the 3 and 4 carbs off the side here that way, because the bracket wants to get hung up on this, but it's not going to really make much of a difference. You can kind of wiggle them in as long as you have everything aligned where they're supposed to be and in the proper location. This is set up for 1 and 3 are labeled already. You can see it's got pins like the Valkyrie does to go through a bracket. Goes in the 1 and 3 tween bag. I left this hose on purpose, so it just kind of registers it so I know. And I'm just going to label this number 1 over here. You know, registers it as far as what I know it's for and kind of direction it goes in. Label this 1. I'm just using tape because then the tape wraps around and sticks on itself. And it just collapses on itself. Which is kind of funny. So we know that this 1 and 3 goes between here. We'll figure all that out later. The nice thing about it is there's just a hole where 2 and 4 goes. So obviously if that one goes there, this one goes there. So we're pretty good on that. But if you want to, you can label these as to the carb they go into. I just like to label stuff on carbs I'm not 100% familiar with. But I've got these things separated now to the point where I'm going to take the diaphragms, caps off into diaphragms, and that means we're going to start using our hard tag. So I have some, what do you call it, some mechanics wire over there, because I'm going to hard tag each one of these. That way it will not come off in the cleaning cycle. That's what I normally do. You've seen it 100 times, so I'm just telling you I'm going to do it, and we'll come back when it's all done. Not sure if these springs on these newer VFRs, newer, you know, mine was an 86. I like the Magnas and Sabres and so forth, the early ones, were different lengths and different stiffness or not. So I'm definitely going to make sure I keep these in the right bag for now. And we'll verify that. We'll take a look at parts fishes and other resources and make sure that the springs are in the right place if they are indeed different. Number 1, slide looks pretty good, diaphragm. Those are most definitely original needles. I can just tell by looking at them, so that's good. And the rubber's in good shape, and they look exactly like the Valkyrie ones. They really do. So they're probably the same damn ones that carb takes. A lot of similarities between this VFR rack and the Valk rack. You know, the way, you know, with that bracket that goes between them and the long studs with the nuts on them. All right, everything is taken apart. The slides are labeled, and the carbs have hard tags on them now. We're going to go ahead and end this video here shortly. We'll call it part 1. But I still have to get the enricher plungers out. I know that. But what I'm really interested in doing is taking a look at these air cut valves. Because on that last Valkyrie, we waited until we were getting ready for installing everything and reassembling everything before we tested those, and then found that they were bad. And I don't want to get into that now. So with this job, I don't want that to happen. What I'm going to do here is use this little baggie. We're going to dump the old O-rings into just one baggie because they're all the same anyway. Let's go ahead and pull an air cut valve. Let's pull them all out and see what they look like as far as testing goes. I am pretty sure these are exactly the same as the ones on the Valks. Why wouldn't they be? These hoses are no good, but I got plenty of that. You know, I think I just had a duh moment. These are 34A's. I gotta go look up the numbers on the Valk carbs, but I mean, these look just like the Valk carbs, except for the fact it doesn't have big old Fumunga hole up here. So they have the caps on both sides of those because they don't have that particular feature where you have the big venting BS, even though it does have vents for the carbs up here, like the Valkyries do. Wonder if they're the same carbs. I mean, they really, really look the same. I'll have to look that up. I'm looking at these things going, you know, I don't know why it's taken me all this time to disassemble all these 4 carbs and then realize they look pretty much identical to Valkyrie carbs, but oh well. They're not identical, but they're very, very close either way. These air cut valves. So let's start in order of number 1, and we'll move up to number 18. Of course, there's the dog. Okay, so number 1's diaphragm, it holds vacuum. You see? Holds vacuum. About 18, 19, yep, that's where I see them normally. That one's good. Number 1's a pass. Let's go to number 2. This is the way they should be working. That's number 2. That's a pass. Number 3's looking good. Actually, this is 4. I grabbed the wrong one, but it don't matter. We got a pass times 4, so I'll bag these up separately. But yeah, this is pretty interesting. I bet you these are like pretty much Valkyrie carbs with some subtle changes like the hole here and so forth, which it just didn't register until just a little while ago. I'm like, damn, these look like Val carbs. So the same cleaning process applies. I guess that's my point. If you're doing a set of these as you would a Valk, you know, make sure all your air jets are open, all your circuits are open, and then just blow through everything. And once you clean them, set them aside, and then start putting them back together. I'm not really sure about the floats, but we'll get to that in video too, as I said. Yeah, so hope I didn't bore you, put you to sleep on this one. I'm going to edit it down to as short as I can to still make the points I wanted to make. Still, it's good information, I think, especially if you're going to be doing a Valkyrie, as these look like Valkyrie carbs. I don't know if they're exactly the same thing, or one of these VFRs. A little bit more complicated because they're kind of in a smaller package, but that's not too bad. Label everything and you'll be fine. Now in video 2, I'm going to skip ahead on all the cleaning and all that crap because you've seen in other Valkyrie videos how I do that and verify all the circuits are open. We'll go ahead and just get back to the video as far as putting them all back together. Might be a little while, depends on if I need some more parts or anything like that. Like, for example, if I replace the floats because I didn't order those. Now that we know we don't need air cut valves, that makes me feel a lot better because these are really in perfect condition. So yeah, who knew? They look like Valkyrie carbs. So if you like what you saw, you know what you need to do. Share, subscribe, ring the bell. Stick around and see video 2 and other stuff we got coming up on the channel. As always, thanks for watching. Don't just repair, restore. We'll catch you on that next video. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to fix this. We're going to fix that crack. And dead nuts on 0. So we're within a thou. I think that's about the best we're going to be able to get this thing. Don't think we're going to need any more heat than that. I think that came out pretty good. And here we go. It's actually pretty good.